Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, I am showing you some news, although it's news which, shall we say we should have seen coming, and we did see coming. Forest of Giant Plants has been banned in the expanded format of the Pokémon trading card game as of the 18th of August. Do remember, of course, that it is being rotated out of the standard format, so the ban was only needed in expanded. That does, however, mean that we should be able to use Forest of Giant Plants at the World Championships in August in Anaheim. So that will be, shall we say, the beautiful swan song, the glorious end, as I might say on my stream, to Forest of Giant Plants' reign. Now, I did do a video a little while ago where I took a look at videos that I thought were quite likely to be banned in the near future, and Forest of Giant Plants really was the number one. It's a little bit broken. What it allows you to do is just evolve all of your grass Pokemon whenever you feel like it. You just get to evolve them straight away. And that is a little bit unfair. Now let's look at a couple of examples. Cigdua. Cigdua's got an amazing ability, Feather Arrow, that allows you to put 2 damage counters on your opponent's side of the board. The thing is, what Pokemon did a while ago was stop you attacking on turn 1 if you went first. We wanted to stop things where your opponent started, KO'd, and won the game instantly and you never got a chance to even play. That's no fun. So they stopped you attacking if you went first, so that your opponent would always get a turn. But the thing about Decidueye with Forest of Giant Plants is you can evolve potentially up to 4 Decidueye on the first turn of the game. And you can then maybe do 80 damage on the first turn of the game without attacking, and you could win anyway. Your opponent starts a Magikarp. Well, as long as you can get 2 Decidueye out on the first turn of the game, you will win before your opponent even has an opportunity to draw a card. We don't like this. This doesn't make the game fun, and we want the game to be fun. Want another example of how ridiculous it's been? Vileplume. Vileplume is another one that really wrecks the game on the first turn. Vileplume has an ability that means that neither players can use item cards. So what one player can do, especially if they go first, is they can do everything they need to do, get set up using a really fast engine, using lots of item cards, things like Trainer's Mail and Acrobike, etc. They can then evolve into Vileplume, and the other player never has access to items for the entire game, unless of course they manage to get something like a Hex Maniac. Even a Garbodor won't do it, because Garbodor's got to have a tool attached. Tools are items, and items cannot be played when there is a Vileplume out. And that is the problem, and the reason Vileplume was an issue is the same reason Decidueye was an issue. It stops your opponent playing the game. Something like Seismitoad always had the disadvantage for the Seismitoad player that you had to attack in order to block items. So either you went second and your opponent had a turn of items, or you went first, couldn't attack, and your opponent had a turn of items. That is not the case with Vileplume. One of the other big uses for this was Vespiquen. It wasn't quite such a broken use, but being able to get so many Pokemon in the discard straight away and then hitting for big damage or B-Revenge was a little bit annoying. But it wasn't just now that this was an issue. This was going to continue to be an issue in the future. So take something like Venusaur that's coming out in Shining Legends. I've done a video about Venusaur, link in the description. And Venusaur says that all of your grass energies count double. Why is that an issue? Well, because of things like, I'll give you one example, Genesect, also coming out in Shining Legends. Now, Genesect is the same as Caldeo EX is, but for grass Pokemon. 50 damage plus 20 more for each grass energy attached to Genesect. But of course, with Venusaur, it was actually doing 40 damage for each grass energy attached to Genesect, and could be used for as little as 2 grass energies. And then you could use something like Max Elixir to get the energy onto him. Or you could use something like Mega Turbo and then move the energy over to Genesect because, oh yeah, Genesect's ability is an energy switch to him. You just get to move a grass energy from one of your Pokemon to Genesect. And this had the potential in Expanded to be a real powerhouse deck. Get your Venusaur going straight away with Forest of Giant Plants, and this could be as early as turn 1 if you're going second. You get your Venusaur going with Forest of Giant Plants, you attach an energy to Genesect, you use a max elixir to put an energy on Genesect, and you're hitting for 130, and that's just on your first turn. That's before you then build it up over the course of the game. It never saw much traction, but something like Mega Beedrill with Venusaur could have been a little bit silly. Mega Beedrill allows you to do 40 damage plus super poison. It's kind of like regular poison, but it does a little bit of extra damage between turns. Instead of doing the usual 10 damage between turns, it in fact does 40 damage between turns. Auto paralysis, 40 damage, super poison, very good, but 2 energy and you had to discard them both. While with Venusaur it's attach an energy, discard it, attach an energy, discard it. This maybe could have been really good with Venusaur, and both Mega Beedrill and Venusaur would have been able to evolve straight up using Forest of Giant Plants. Now, this isn't the first time we've ever seen a card like this. Broken Time Space came around a while ago, and it was like Forest of Giant Plants, but for anything. Any of your Pokemon could evolve whenever you felt like it, and this led to some ridiculously powerful strategies. We had the old Gyarados that did 30 damage for every Magikarp in your discard pile, but thanks to Broken Time Space, you could get 3 Magikarp in your discard, and then one evolved into a Gyarados, and then every turn you could just recover a Magikarp and evolve it. You could always have 3 Magikarp in a discard. That made Gyarados a little bit mean. But if you want a really harsh use for this, Machamp. Machamp for 1 fighting energy instantly KO'd any basic Pokemon. And this was back in the day when you could attack going first, although you couldn't play any item cards, so it wasn't quite as harsh. You couldn't use something like Rare Candy, although back then you could Rare Candy on turn 1 as well. This led to some powerful strategies, but there were 2 big differences between turn 1 Rare Candy and Broken Time Space in the old days, and Forest of Giant Plants now. Difference number 1, it was available for everybody. Every evolution deck could use these. And secondly, we had a faster game back then. We had a game where we didn't mind having what we call a donk, where you get your win on the first turn of the game, where you would KO your opponent's only Pokemon. As a side note, people talk about, oh, I knocked out your only Pokemon on the 3rd turn, I donked you. No, you didn't. You benched them. Donking is where you knock out their only Pokemon on the 1st turn. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a true donk. I don't know why you needed to know that, but I felt it important to let you know. It isn't a proper term, but it is a widely used fan term. But that's the format we had back then, and that was okay, and everybody seemed fine with it. We even had really powerful basic Pokemon, the SP Pokemon, so it wasn't much of an issue. But that's not where we are at the moment. Nowadays, we don't want that. We want longer games, or at least that's the way the game is going. And Forest of Giant Plants, along with cards like Cigdua and Vileplume, allowed players to just essentially or literally win on the 1st turn of the game, and that meant that it wasn't much fun. As a side note, we've always been looking to see whether a Grass Charger Bug is going to come out, because Charger Bug is Bug Lightning in the video game, so it could be Lightning or Grass, because Bug is Grass, in the trading card game. It doesn't matter anymore. If we ever get a Grass Charger Bug, with Forest of Giant Plants, we'd be able to get a turn 1 Vikavolt, yay! But without it, we can't. As a quick side note here, Shiftry is now not banned anymore. Shiftry's got that ability that when you evolve, flip a coin if heads, essentially remove one of your opponent's Pokemon from the field. That was banned because with Forest of Giant Plants it was too powerful. But Shiftry wasn't the issue. Forest of Giant Plants was the issue. Shiftry wasn't the only broken card with this. We had, like I've said, Cigdua and Vileplume come to mind. So without Forest of Giant Plants, Shiftry goes back to being that terrible card that no one ever played, and probably nobody ever will. Here's what Pokemon actually said about this ban. The Forest of Giant Plant Stadium enables many dangerous strategies with grass Pokémon in the format. These strategies can range from locking the opponent's options to winning the game on the first turn. That's basically talking about Vileplume and talking about Cigdua. And all of them can happen before the opponent ever gets a chance to play. No single strategy was powerful enough to ban this stadium card, but so many of them existing at the same time gave sufficient cause to ban it. Pretty much everything I've been saying in this video, ladies and gentlemen. It was too good, it got banned, of course it did. And to be honest, we don't know what grass Pokemon were going to be released in the future. We could have had some even more ridiculous combos coming in the future. Now there is a comment section, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me whether you think Forest of Giant Plants needed to be banned or not. Tell me if you thought it was unhealthy enough to warrant the ban. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter @TheWassy and Twitch for live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. The most important thing as always is to look after yourselves until next time. Although if you want to support the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross and you've been watching PTCG Radio.